Hi everyone and welcome to our next employability film here at LYPP, and today I have been asked to do a short workshop on interviews. Now, for most people, the word interviews, it makes you feel a bit scared, it makes you feel a bit daunted. To be honest, I don't know many people that would say they enjoy interviews, but they are important. They are the way that most employers choose to employ staff. And I know that some of you are starting to even get selected for interviews for college places, for university places. So over the course of our lifetime, interviews are going to feature, so it's important that we try and put in place some skills to help make that process go a little bit better. So today I am going to be bringing you some tips and advice that will hopefully be able to guide you to make the interview process a little bit better. Now, one thing I want to say before we start is if you're selected for an interview, you should already be really proud of yourself, because usually what happens is when you apply for a job, there might be 10 candidates, say, that apply for a job, and the employer will read through the CVs, the application form, and they probably go, right, we'll take the 4 best ones forward to an interview because they want to start whittling down the amount of candidates. So if you have already been selected for an interview, it's because they have already seen something in you that looks like a good fit. So something in your CV, your application form, something has stood out to them to say this person looks like they could be a good match for this role. And really, the purpose of the interview is for you to then try and sell yourself to show that you are the absolute top person for that role. Sounds easy enough? Let's see. Okay, so today I have brought with me my bag, my work bag, and inside my bag there's going to be some props that are going to help us think about some skills, some tips for interviews. So we'll dig in, there's quite a few, and we'll see what comes out. Okay, so the first thing to come out of this bag, I'm going to pull it out. Okay, can we see this? We've got a hoodie, not just any hoodie. It's an LYPP hoodie. And why have I got this? So the first thing I would say is when you're going for an interview is that you research the company that you're going to be working for. Okay, so if I was going for a job at LYPP, I would be going on to the LYPP website. I'd go onto the social media pages to try and get a bit of a flavour for what it is that goes on there. And that's really important for wherever you're going for an interview, is that you know about what the organisation does and how your role would fit into that. So normally when you get the application pack, so you would get the form, you would also get something called a job description, which the company then outline the tasks, responsibilities, and a general overview of what the role is. And that helps you to sort of decide if it's something that you had even wanted to apply for. So obviously you've now gone past that stage, but what they're really looking for is for you to demonstrate that you've got matching skills to that, to their job description, that will then carry forward into the job. So one of the first questions they might ask you is, why are you interested in the role? What made you apply for the role? And you really need to have quite a good answer for that, because that's usually one of the first questions, and that's one of the easier questions usually. So it's important that you know about the role, how it fits into the wider picture, and how your skills match up to those roles. Okay, so following on from knowing about the company, they're then going to ask you things. So they've already asked you what made you apply for the role. They're then going to ask you things about your skills and what you think you might bring to the interview. Okay, so coming out my bag, I've got a random photo. Okay, it's a photo of me. It's not the best photo, but it's one that we had in a frame. So this is to remind yourself that you need to know yourself. Okay, so only you can tell the interviewer how good you are at things, things that you might need to improve on, what experiences you've got, so maybe some work experience or your school qualifications, so your hobbies, all of these things. These are the things that employers are trying to draw out of you, and they'll do that over a number of questions. So they might say, you know, can you tell me what you would bring to the role, or what do you think your skills are for this role? Or they usually ask you a question about something to do with what do you do outside of work, and that's where you can talk about your hobbies and show that you've got other skills on top of general qualifications. So they're going to be focusing on you and what you can bring, and this is your time to sort of shine, to sell yourself, and show a bit more about your personality as well. So it's really important that you feel quite strong on these answers. It's really important that you try and practice some of these. So getting someone at home or a friend to sort of say, what are your skills? What do you feel most confident in? And knowing as well some of the things that you're not as confident about. And it sounds a bit silly to practice, but if you can do that, then when you go into the interview, you're not saying or coming up with one word answers. You'll be able to say, well, I like working in a team, I really enjoy being part of group things, or I really enjoy, you know, working with the public, or things like that, things that are related to the job that you will then be able to sell yourself in quite a confident way because you know what you're about to say next. So it's important to know yourself, know your skills, and just have an idea about what you're bringing to the role. Okay, so next up in the bag, I'm pulling out, I've got a map of Linlithgow, as you do in our house. And what this is supposed to symbolise is for you to know where you're going for your interview. Now, usually you will be invited for an email. Somebody will email you or phone you maybe a week before to say you've been selected for the interview and it's going to be on this date. You know, it might be a week or two away, and they'll give you details. So they'll say it's at this time and it's at this place. And what is a really wise thing to do, and I have done it in the past, is to look up where you're going. And if it's somewhere that you don't know, so say it's not somewhere in Linlithgow, maybe you're going somewhere in Edinburgh city centre, is to try and do a trial run before, so that you know where you're going and you're not as flustered on the day. And I've done that myself. I remember I was going for a job in a place called Maryhill in Glasgow, which was not an area I knew particularly well. So my interview, I think, was the Monday or Tuesday. So on the Saturday, my husband and I did a quick drive round to find the place, and we also then looked at different places that I could park the car because there wasn't a car park there. And that's really important because you've got to factor in all of that into your planning. So if you're going for an interview that's, say, out of Linlithgow, okay, so you've maybe got to get public transport or you've got to go in the car, then you need to know how much time do you need to allocate to that. You might need to, as I say, think about parking time and then walking to the place as well, because you want to have as calm a time getting to the interview as possible, because all of that will help how you feel when you actually begin the interview. So it's really important to think about where it is, how you're going to get there, and what time you will need for that. Okay, so next coming up, now this is not in the bag because it didn't fit in the bag, but next up is a massive pillow from my daughter's room, a unicorn one. So what does the pillow symbolise? Okay, so we've now practiced thinking about what our skills are. We've practiced some questions. We know we've been selected for an interview. We know where it is and what time it is. So now it's the night before, and we've got to start thinking about getting ready for our interview. And one thing I would say is important above all else is sleep. And Catherine would also talk to us as well about self-care as well. So it's really important the night before an interview or leading up to an interview that we start looking after ourselves a little bit, because we want to be on best form to show our best selves at an interview. So we don't want to be, and I know it's difficult when you're nervous and things, but really the night before it's probably about watching something that you really like on Netflix, or getting to bed early, or having a bath, or whatever it is that makes you calm. That's really important, and quite you taking responsibility for how you feel and how you can present yourself. So these are really important things, which sound a bit naff, but it sounds a bit like, oh, go to bed early or whatever, but they are really important skills and do benefit you in the long run. Okay, so next up, I'm going into the bag to see what else is coming out. Okay, here we go. I've got, you see it? I've got a tie. And this is to help us to remember it's really important to think about what we wear to interviews, okay? You've got one shot, probably, usually only get one interview, one shot to kind of sell yourself and say, this is me, this is who I am, and this is how I'm going to fit into your company. Now, it might not be that you wear a full suit to an interview, but it might be that you think about the clothes that you have and try and choose things that are more smart. And one thing to say, if you ever need help with things like that, we are always happy to help and help you buy things as well that will help you to look a bit smarter. Now, not all jobs would require you to go in a full suit. So for example, at LYPP, we don't wear suits to work. So I would expect someone coming for interview to LYPP to have maybe a nicer top on, or like for the boys, I've seen a lot of boys wear like a checked shirt or something like that, not like a full shirt and tie and that kind of thing. But just to say, I've not turned up in, you know, joggers and a t-shirt. I've tried to make an effort to look a bit more presentable, and it sounds a bit like it shouldn't really matter because they should be able to listen to you and see your skills, but first impressions do really count, and people are looking to see that you've made an effort to show that you really want the job as well, and that you understand the protocol of interviews and fitting into a company. So it probably depends on where you're going for that interview, but it is definitely worth knowing what to wear. So maybe a nice blouse or a shirt, or a nice sort of top with a necklace, or having a shirt and tie might be appropriate. And I think that's definitely one to maybe discuss with somebody at home or with us about, what do you think I should wear? But it's definitely a question that you should ask before. Okay, what's next in the bag? I've got a clock. The clock is to remind us about the importance of timekeeping. Okay, now that's an important skill anyway in life, but for an interview, don't be late. Just don't be late. That's my biggest tip. They've given you a location to go to, they've given you a time to go to, and that's what they want you to do. Now, of course, as we've talked about, there'll be other applicants, so the people interviewing will have set aside maybe 3 or 4 hours in the day, so they need you to be on time as well, because it affects the whole day. But also they are watching you to see how reliable you are, how able you are to meet those deadlines. So it's another way of showing that you have got skills to bring. Now, we talked about this before in the planning your journey, so it's really important that you're able to plan and to get there on time. Now, I would suggest if your interview's maybe at 2 o'clock, that you try and be there for about 10:45, 10 to. You don't want to be too early, but you definitely don't want to give yourself too little time. And when you get there, you might be told you're going up to the 3rd floor or something, so it might take you a wee minute or two to get to the exact location that you're going, but it gives you time to go to the toilet, have a drink of water, just calm down, think about some of the questions. So it's really important when you're thinking about interviews that you prepare to be there a bit early and demonstrate that you are good at timekeeping. Okay, a couple more to go, so here we go. I've got a notebook and a pen. Now, as part of your preparation that we talked about before, you'll be thinking about your skills and your hobbies and your experience, and it's okay to write some of that down in a notebook, and you can take that with you, so that if you are feeling a bit nervous, you could actually open it and go, oh yeah, I could mention that or this, in a not reading it for ages way, but just in a subtle way, maybe write some bullet points. But another reason for the notebook and pen is, one thing that generally they will say at the end of an interview is, have you got any questions for us? And generally they are very keen that you do have a question. So if you kind of go, oh no, and you just want to get out, it maybe doesn't look like you are as interested. So it might be that you could come up with a question to say, just to show that you're a bit more interested. So you might say about the organisation, I noticed on your website that you are doing this particular project, could you tell me more about how my role might fit into that, or something like that. And I guess that is probably dependent on what role it is and what job it is that you're going for, and certainly I'm sure someone at home or a friend, or certainly definitely one of us, would be happy to help you come up with a question. But it's a really good idea to write that down and take it with you, so that you have a little note of it, and it will jog your memory as well. And this is something you can be looking at again if you turn up a little bit earlier before your interview. You can just go over some of your answers and think about the question that you might ask at the end. Okay, last thing in the bag. This bag was huge, wasn't it? Here we go. Pull it out. Okay. Toothpaste. This is to remind you to smile. It seems a really simple thing, but it's a really important thing. And quite often when people are nervous, it's kind of the last thing they're thinking to do. But smiling, it changes your face. It makes you a bit more approachable, and it lets people see the real you. So when you are maybe walking into the room, you can smile, you can say, "Hi, my name's Elaine," or whatever. You might be shaking hands at the end or whatever. And it's a good idea just to try and look quite personable and build a rapport with the person interviewing you. So it's really important to smile. Okay guys, we're done. There's no more stuff in the bag. But guys, I hope you have enjoyed today and you find listening to the skills and the tips useful. I know that some of you are thinking, sort of preparing now for interviews for university and college, and will soon be thinking about part-time jobs. So if we can be of any help, please contact us on the Facebook and Instagram. That's what we're here to do, and we'd be delighted to do that as well. And we can also set up some mock interviews for you when an LYPP staff member sort of interviews you, and we can do that online as well if that is something that would be of use to you. But guys, I know all of you are so, talented, and I know if you think about these tips and skills, you'll go into interviews and you'll smash them. So I hope that's been useful, and we will speak to you next time.